Are the Arizona State Sun Devils America's team, or maybe a more important question, is anybody even close? It's Eric Ruby, Anthony Totri, trending edition of PHNX Sun Devils. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, 5 stars if you're listening on audio. It goes a long way. Speaking of going a long way, from 3-9 to America's darling last year in the college football playoffs behind Sam Leavitt, Cam Scadaboo, Kenny Dillingham, Josh Pate of CBS Sports says the Sun Devils are officially America's team going into this upcoming season. Anthony Totri, are you floored by Pate's declaration of Arizona State?
I mean, I think it's the perfect way to label this team going into this year, right? And some of his explanation is you're trying to find a team that's maybe not a perennial powerhouse like the Bamas and the Georgias and the Ohio States, and maybe you're not trying to find one that is paying players an absurd amount of money in a major conference like anyone really in the Big Ten or the SEC. And then you get a team that at Arizona State, like Pate said on his podcast, that was left for dead, right? When Herm Edwards was here, Ray Anderson was here, and you had the sanctions, you had players leaving, you had the whole locker room video with Jaden Daniels. It was a very grim time for Arizona State fans. So to now have Kenny Dillingham going into year 3 at the helm, to still have Sam Leavitt here, Jordan Tyson, arguably the nation's best quarterback wide receiver duo. It's a fun team to root for, a fun program to root for. And I think a lot of people really, really got on board after that Peach Bowl game against Texas.
I think they're relatable.
Yeah.
Right? All the things you mentioned, the word that I think sums it all up is relatable.
Yeah.
Because you look at Kenny Dillingham, and whether it's him celebrating with the fans after the Utah win or just hearing him speak leading up to the Peach Bowl, it's like, okay, this guy is just one of us.
Yeah.
He's just one of the guys.
He's a dude's dude.
He's a dude's dude, but I think even more so, it's balancing that with the fact that he's a really good coach. It almost it makes you respect the fact that he is just like a human being, just a normal person, more so than anything. But beyond Kenny Dillingham, because I think that's just the crutch when you talk about, America's team, Kenny Dillingham, the relatability. This is a deep, all-around fun team to watch.
Yeah.
And in order to be America's team, you can't just have one good player, right? You need to have a great team.
You got to be a good team.
And I think that the Sun Devils not only have a chance to win the Big 12, but have a chance to go further than they did last year.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can't be America's team and be a 6-6 team that's barely going bowling. You have to be a team that's going to compete for a championship. You have to be a team that is going to be playing in big-time games. The big question, kind of like you alluded to, is can this team go further than they did last year? Did they hit their ceiling in the Peach Bowl in the college football playoff? I don't necessarily think that they have hit their ceiling, but there is a lot of pressure on this team this year specifically. And if you want to like zoom out of the whole, what does 2025 look like, and kind of look like, what does this program look like beyond this, right? Of the whole idea of America's team, is they went 3-9 Dilly's first year. Second year, they're an 11-win team. They win the Big 12. They go to the college football playoff. Okay. It's kind of like a fork in the road here. Are you a team that, boom, that was a flash in the pan of your 11-win season? Or are you what Kenny said during spring ball, where every 10 years maybe there's a program that kind of separates itself, right? The Oregons, the Clemsons, that go on to be considered those perennial powerhouses with the Bamas, Ohio States, Georgias, Notre Dames. So this year is big for that. Are you going to really like step up, or are you going to kind of falter and prove all the haters right that it was just a Cam Scadaboo led team? I don't think that's going to be the case. It is high, but right? Expectations are a privilege.
Yeah, you've put that on yourself because you have not afforded yourself any grace in this specific conversation. I think for Arizona State fans in specific, for people who are locked in on what this team is doing, a slight step back this year does not deter you from what you think long-term this program can be, considering the fact that nobody expected the acceleration to happen this fast. So not that we expect this team to do it, because we expect them to be damn good this season, but a slight step back would not be the end of what Kenny Dillingham is building here.
No, absolutely not. But I mean, expectations, right? The sports books, we just talked about it the other day on the show. The sports books have set the line for Arizona State at 8.5. That is the highest of any team in the Big 12 in terms of win total. Now, there are a couple teams that all have the 8.5. There are several sports books that have multiple teams tied odds-wise to win the Big 12 championship. Arizona State with Kansas State and Texas Tech, just to name a few of those teams. So the national expectation is you will take a step back. You won't be an 11-win team. You'll be an 8-win team based off of the odds, right? Plus money to go for 9 wins. So I don't think there are a lot of ASU fans that are going to be up in arms if this team only wins 9 games, especially, again, you figure Arizona State went, back-to-back 3-9 seasons, and you're telling me over the last 2 years we're talking about a team that could potentially win 20 games.
Right. Being in the top 25 feels like a non-negotiable for this team. We've obviously done shows where it's like they deserve to be in the top 15, the top 12.
Borderline top 10.
Going into the season. And if you want to continue to earn this respect, you need to maintain that.
Correct.
Being in the top 25 is a non-negotiable, though. That being said, America's team is one thing, but what's the competition there? Because sure, it's on Arizona State to hold that as well, but is there another darling, another sweetheart, a team that can come out of nowhere? Because to me, you look at last year and you see Indiana, right? Yeah. And Indiana is this come from nothing. Kurt Cignetti is the national coach of the year. A very similar story to what ASU is doing, but not talked about or revered on the same level as Arizona State. Yeah. So can there even be another team that competes for this title of like everybody's second favorite college football team, right? Everybody has their favorite. Of course, the Sun Devils fans, that's their number one. But then it's, oh, well, who's your other team? Who's your Big 12 team? Who's your West Coast team?
Yeah.
A majority of the people, I feel like now, who like college football be like, man, I love Arizona State.
Well, I think when we're having this conversation, you bring up a good point. Going back to last year, looking at some other teams that the whole idea of America's team, I think, is now more relevant than ever because you do have those like one-off teams that get into the college football playoff.
Your Boise
right?
States.
Your Boise
maybe
States.
Your SMU.
Exactly. Your SMU, your Boise States, your Arizona States, your Indianas. Like those. That was the group for, okay, which team is America's team? And Arizona State obviously going the furthest out of those teams, and everybody loved Cam Scadaboo. So looking at this season, I think, again, like there are more teams in the Big 12 that you could make arguments for as quote unquote America's team than any other conference, right? And that's not necessarily because of the coaches, but a lot of the players, right? Sawyer Robertson over at Baylor, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. There are a lot of people that are really excited to see what Texas Tech does this year. Are they the team that goes and represents the Big 12 in the college football playoff? I don't know if there are any other teams outside of the Big 12 that you can make that argument. Because going back to what Josh had said, right? Like you're trying to find somebody that's fun to watch, that is maybe outside of the SEC, outside of the Big 10, teams that are going to be, top 3, top 4, just going into the season. Mm-hmm. So I think there are a handful of teams that you can make the argument in the Big 12, but there's nobody. I think the difference maker for Arizona State in that conversation is the fact that they have Kenny Dillingham, and he's one of the youngest coaches in college football, the youngest coach in this conference. And getting back to what you kind of started this whole thing off saying, right? He's relatable. The team's relatable, right? How many people love the underdog story? That is, going into this year, can Arizona State truly shed that identity of we're no longer the underdog? We're here. You have to come to our house. You have to come play us, and we're going to send you packing, right? Mm. Otherwise, you just go back and be the whole flash of the pan conversation that we had.
Looking at a couple of teams in Josh Pate's top 20, because I think you have to be in the top 20 to be in this conversation.
Yeah, again, you have to be good to be America's team.
ASU comes in at 13. I don't think you can pick a top 10 team.
Probably not.
And I know top 10 is subjective at this point, but let me just list off some teams from 11 to 20, and you tell me if they even have a chance to be considered America's team.
Okay.
Number 11's Georgia.
No.
I think there's too much pedigree there. 12's Miami.
I could listen to Miami. People love when they use back.
Yeah, for sure. But do you feel like they might fall into that almost most mainstream type of team, even though we know that Miami hasn't been a Bama, a Georgia, a Clemson?
I would say no, just because they haven't been relevant in so long, right? Last year was their best year in a really long time, and even then they didn't make a championship game. They didn't make the college football playoff. So I would say, they could certainly be in that conversation. I don't know how likable Some of
Carson Beck.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna say the
You
name.
can say the name.
I wasn't gonna say the name, but that
We know he's a
gotta
big
have,
PHNX Sun
You
Devils
gotta
fan.
have likable players and likable
Yeah.
coaches. And I know there's a lot of folks that have a lot of issues with Carson Beck.
13's ASU. We already know where we stand on them. 14 is Texas A&M.
I think Texas A&M is a fun one to throw in there. Another program that has always been like a middle of the pack team here in the SEC. So if they do something special, then maybe. But I feel like there's so many teams that are so similar to Texas A&M in the SEC, right? You look like a team like South Carolina in there as well that is always just like middle of the pack. What are you going to be able to do? Ole Miss, like
it still just feels like too big of a brand to me.
Yeah,
Miami,
that's
Texas
fair.
A&M, the brand, even if it's not
too big.
blue blood, I think the brand's too big to be America's team. Next one is interesting. Illinois.
I'm not a big.
I know you're not
Illinois-
high on
yeah.
them this year, but if they are really good,
It's just
They're a
tough
good
because of
story.
the market, right? Like how many people
Sure.
are watching Illinois football, right?
Yeah.
In the Big Ten, they're worse than a.
I feel like people would say the same thing about Arizona State.
Yeah,
They'd be wrong, but I
don't
feel like
know.
they would say the same thing.
I don't know. There's just a lot of. It goes back to the likability,
Sure.
right? Like I don't know how many people know a lot that's going on with Illinois football.
Ole Miss.
I love Ole Miss. And maybe that's just because I think they have the best jerseys in college sports.
That plays a factor in it, for sure.
I would love to see Ole Miss be in that conversation.
I think they will be. They're like borderline too big of a brand, but I think they are still just small enough.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point.
Georgia Tech.
I think Georgia Tech has a really good year this year.
I think they're a small enough school.
They've been a bad team for a long time. Last year was one of their best years that they've had, like in recent history. They're returning some talent. I think Georgia Tech could certainly be in there. The only issue, I guess it's not really an issue. They have a real uphill battle, right? Because you have to be good, and they play in the SEC. And we just talked about a number of teams ahead of them in the SEC. Georgia
Tech's
Bama.
ACC.
Is Georgia Tech ACC?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, there you go. For some reason, I thought they were SEC.
SEC bias,
There you
PHNX
go.
Sun Devils.
I see Georgia. I immediately think
That's
SEC.
fair. Yeah,
So,
ACC there.
they have a chance, man. They have a chance, especially, I guess, they're not in the SEC, so their only real competition in the ACC this year is going to be Clemson and SMU. So there's definitely a chance for Georgia Tech to have that title.
This is my pick for who could be in contention. Now, this is an SEC team, so it's tough.
Okay.
South Carolina. Lenora Sellers might be a dark horse Heisman candidate. South Carolina had a good year last year, and winning in the SEC would mean a lot.
It would mean a lot. It's a similar issue that we present with Ole Miss, right? Is you got so many teams that are just juggernauts in that conference. Georgia, LSU, Bama. It's a real uphill battle. But if you are able to accomplish that, right? If we're talking about South Carolina at the end of the season playing in the SEC championship game, then I think it's a tough argument for any other team to really be America's team.
Yeah, Michigan and Texas Tech right now at the top 20.
Yeah, I don't like Michigan as a team, again, that just won a national championship a couple years ago. So I'd listen to Texas Tech. They're a fun team, fun program.
Got a lot of money spent there.
But yeah, I would say, to kind of recap, Georgia Tech, Texas Tech, Arizona State, Ole Miss, South Carolina.
I think those are good picks.
Those are probably your five.
I settle the same way, but what about you? What do you think? Drop a comment down below. Is Arizona State surefire America's team, or is somebody else giving them a run for their money? Once again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 50,000 subscribers. Grow this community alongside with us. Become a diehard today. We have a merch sale going on at gophnx.com, up to 75% off on our spring cleaning sale. And of course, if you're listening on audio, 5-star reviews. So much go a long way for us. Help us spread the word of this podcast. Of course, PHNX Sun Devils is live 5 days a week at 1 o'clock Arizona time with full hour-long shows. Anthony Totri has the tail of the tape, taking you through some of the lesser-known Arizona State commits and transfers and what they've been doing on the field and what you can expect from them. That, of course, is on this very YouTube channel, PHNX Sports, and we do everything else over here. Suns, Diamondbacks, Cardinals, U of A. Yuck. Mercury
not
Rising.
America's team.
Definitely not America's team. Brent Brennan, not America's coach. But I do like the guys to do the show over there. So you can check them out if you are a U of A fan or a Big 12 fan, college football fan in general. We'll be back with more trendings, more live shows, and tail of the tapes next week.